Whether you're buying a property for investment or for your own stay, there's always two very common questions that we'll ask ourselves or even we ask our agent. Number one, can my property appreciate in future? For the property that I'm looking at today, can it actually appreciate in price later on? And the second question that we'll ask ourselves is that, can my property sell in future? Will there be any takers or will there be actually a demand for my property when I actually choose to sell next time in the future? So these are two common questions. Hello everyone, I'm Elaine. In today's sharing, I will be actually addressing these two questions that we often ask. To answer these two questions, we actually want to go back to the very basic of the supply and demand in the property market. So we often talk about supply and demand, but do we actually know how do we see the supply and how do we see the demand? So if you look at this, in terms of supply, it's always easier to determine the amount of supply based on two things. Number one, the master plan. Number two, the land bid sale. So if you look at this, for example, in terms of the Lentor Township, in this case, for example, we know that in Lentor itself, there's actually a lot of new developments that's coming up. So whether you are buying the first property, the first development, or the second development, or whichever, we already know that there is a planned number of plots in terms of residential that's going to be built, that's going to be upcoming. So no matter which development that you have actually chose, you more or less will already be able to tell what are the upcoming supply in this area. So is there going to be an oversupply or is there going to be undersupply? Of course, we will go into a different analysis, but this is mainly to answer to the question of how do we actually look at supply. So supply is always easier to determine because we know the master plan and we also know the land bid sale, because all this information are actually readily available. But the next thing is that, yes, we know the supply. Do we actually know the demand? For this area that I'm looking at, how do we see whether is there a demand for my property? How do we know that, next time if I want to sell, will there actually be buyers be looking into my property? So how do we see the demand? This is a more important question. So there's two important steps. Number one, in whichever development or whichever area that you're looking at, it's very important to understand the buyer's profile in the specific home. But are these information readily available? The answer is no, because this kind of information in terms of buyer's profile will not be so available. If let's say you were to do a search, you won't be able to get the information so easily. So this is actually how we can actually come in to share with you or to help you to analyze in the specific home area what are the buyer's profile. So